Street. Let's find out what Marcus knows. Marcus, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Thanks very much for joining us. Yeah, I mean, there seems to be two schools of thought here. One is that the Labour were trying to rush this through initially before the elections in Mauritius. Then the elections came and went. The new government weren't supposed to be that keen, but now are, presumably having been promised £9 billion over a period of time. But now we're hearing as well that there's a bit of fear in Downing Street that if they do the deal and rush it through, Trump will just kind of reverse it when he gets in anyway.
Well, look, you're right. And I think what we can say safely is that this has been one hot mess since it very started.
Yes.
I think that the government is clearly torn at the moment between obstinacy and wanting to see through its deal. You have the new National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell, who negotiated the agreement, the proposed agreement with Mauritius, clearly seeing this now as quite a personal thing, wanting to rush it through. On the other, you obviously see the complete ridiculousness of trying to do that before the next American administration comes in. I was on here on your programme just the other week talking about our recent policy exchange report, which called for the government to actually pull out of the agreement, saying that everything that's happened since, whether it be the Chagosian people blowback against the deal, the new American administration, with many of which are senior officials opposing the deal in the past, and not least the Mauritian government itself, seeking to reopen the negotiations. All of these reasons clearly show that the government should withdraw, this is a British one, with grace and with purely legitimately as well, because of the changed circumstances. So it seems that perhaps they have indeed read our paper. Yeah,
well, that's good news, isn't it? It means that you have more influence than you thought. But at the end of the day, isn't it interesting that this has always been something that kind of came out of the blue, wasn't it? You know, just because one particular ruling in one particular court suggested it should happen, you know, there was a sort of indecent haste, it seemed, from the Foreign Office and also from Downing Street to get on with it when nobody was really calling for it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, this all sparked because of an International Court of Justice non-binding opinion that it gave in 2019. Yeah. You know, this is there's absolutely no requirement here for the government to follow in this. In our paper, we show there's many examples in history where governments have chosen not to take non-binding opinions and haven't faced devastating diplomatic and legal consequences. I think what's critical to remember here is that, of course, the Conservatives did start negotiations with Mauritius back in 2022. However, the Conservatives went through 10 rounds of negotiations. They didn't sign anything. They had their red lines. They saw this as an issue of dynamic strategic risk that had to be managed. But Labour has come in, rushed to sign a deal because it seems to see this sort of legal compliance issue as being paramount to the long-term security of the base. Of course, the complete irony of all of this is that transferring sovereignty of the islands on which the military base resides is the surest way of destabilising its long-term security. And the last several months absolutely display the long-term insecurity that such a deal would cast the base into. So it's great that the government seems to have got cold feet, and let's hope they continue to do so.
Well, right. And how have they arrived at the money as well? I mean, in terms of the amount of money they're promising, how have they calculated that exactly?
I mean, it seems like they've put their finger in, they've wet their finger and put it in the breeze. I mean, who knows? So what a striking thing is that reports had previously said that it might be that the government would never disclose the full financial agreement with Mauritius for reasons of national security, which is, of course, quite ironic because it is our national security which is at stake if we do transfer sovereignty over the base to another country. The government has made every mistake you could possibly do in negotiations. It's gone in, it's essentially confessed that it doesn't think that the UK ever has a legal and moral ownership of the islands by admitting that it's going to renegotiate and seize sovereignty. So then that just allowed Mauritius to come in and make any demands it wants. Again, reports that they wanted as much as 800 million a year. I mean, it was the government was playing catch up from the beginning, and it's just been a litany of errors by this point, apart from hopefully the latest news that they might roll back on it. Yeah, well, let's hope that they continue to see sense and not do it. And it would fill in yet another tick box in our return of the year of common sense. But good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Marcus Solarz Hendriks, the head of National Security Unit at the Policy Exchange. They wrote a paper on this. He hopes and is pretty sure that the government read it and have suddenly decided, no, actually, this is not such a great idea after all, because it isn't.